so glad you came to save us. You came from heaven to earth to show the way, from the earth to the cross, my debt to pay, from the cross to the grave, from the grave to the sky. Lord, I lift your name on high. Lord, I lift your name on high. Lord, I love to sing your praises. I'm so glad you're in my life. I'm so glad you came to save us. You came from heaven to earth to show the way, from the earth to the cross, my debt to pay, from the cross to the grave, from the grave to the sky. Lord, I lift your name on high. You came from heaven to earth to show the way, from the earth to the cross, my debt to pay, from the cross to the grave, from the grave to the sky. Lord, I lift your name on high. Lord, I lift your name on high. Lord, I lift your name on high.
Good morning. Welcome to First Baptist Church in historic Tarboro, North Carolina, located on Main Street beside the post office. I am Ronnie Daughtry, and I will be teaching the 11th lesson of the summer Sunday School Quarterly called Finding Honor. This is August 16th. We are broadcasting at 8 a.m. Now, we're on Channel 13. You can see us at other times on YouTube, and somebody always puts it on Facebook. John Rosal will be handling the 9 o'clock Hispanic service this morning, and he'll also be doing the 10:30 service for Lamont Heminger, who is under the weather today. By the way, our church is closed this week. The office, everything is closed for the pandemic. The lesson today is taken from Proverbs 31, 10 through 16, and 23 through 31. Now, we've only got 2 more weeks, and this coming week, I am going to be gone. I'm trying to find somebody to teach for me. So if you're listening to my voice and you like to teach Sunday school, I've got all the materials I'll let you have. You have to do 40 minutes. And the lesson next week, the lessons are all from King Solomon, and all the lessons have been from Proverbs so far. But the lesson next week is going to be called Relational Foundations, and it comes from something else King Solomon wrote called Song of Songs. And then the final week, I will be back. If I don't find anybody to teach for me, I will teach both lessons the following week, and that will be the last lesson. And then we'll be giving out new quarterlies. Those of you at the Albemarle, I'll be taking all your Sunday school books over there and having them for you so you can read as we continue to do these lessons like this. I want to dedicate this lesson today to all the people that are sick with the virus. I'm praying that, and I will be praying in a minute, that you have a speedy recovery. I heard one good piece of news this week. I saw Hattie Stocks, who has celebrated her 90th birthday. She told me that if you call the Albemarle, you could arrange to meet with a resident outside, just maintain the 6-foot distance. I don't think we have had that before, and I have really been concerned about these 5 months. The folks at the Albemarle, they really have been quarantined. I want to pray now, so pray with me. Lord, we have never had a time like this in our town, in our church. There's a lot of worry, a lot of concern, a lot of impatience. We tried to do the right thing and follow all the rules, and still people get sick. It's really strange times. But I'm praying that all these people will recover and we will be back doing your work here at First Baptist. And if you could end this pandemic, that would be a wonderful thing. Be with the 40 million people that are out of work. Help them to get back to work soon. Lord, be with our leaders. Help our leaders not to be so divisive in our campaigning, and that we will get the right people in place to lead us. Give us some Christian, godly people to run our state and town and country. I think that would be a big help. Lord, be with me today. Anything and everything that I do, may it be pleasing to you as I read your word, as I pray, as I teach. Let me to be clear, and people will learn from what I'm saying and want to delve further into your word. Lord, we know the Bible is made up of 66 books written by 40 people over a period of 1,500 years. Mostly men. Well, they were all men, but 2 of the books were about women, but they were written by men. But these words in this lesson today is good guidance for mothers, wives, grandmothers. It has good advice about how to live your life. Number 1 rule is to follow God, to acknowledge that He is in charge of your life. Pray daily that He will lead and guide you. And may everything that happens today, as I said, be pleasing to you and be proper. And may all the people listening to my voice, may they be inspired to do further work. And if they're not Christians, they will find a way to get to know you. And I ask this in Jesus' name. Amen. I want to start off today. I get materials occasionally from Robert Brock, who used to live here. He used to be one of the main people at the college. Dr. Brock was in charge of instruction, and he served for many years. He's retired now, lives on the golf course on number 2, matter of fact, in Newbern. Beautiful home. He sent me some stuff. He always liked to teach his Sunday school lesson. He always liked to have a joke or something, but they were things that really happened. And this is one that really happened, and I think it's kind of funny. This happened in a church. A little boy was asked to be in a relative's wedding. As he was coming down the aisle, he would take 2 steps, stop, and turn to the crowd. And while facing the crowd, he would put his hands up like claws and roar. So it went, step, step, roar, step, step, roar, all the way down the aisle. As you can imagine, the crowd was near tears from laughing so hard by the time he reached the pulpit. Later, after the service, when he was asked what he was doing, the child sniffed and said, I was being the ring bearer. Okay, now for more serious things. This guy that wrote the lesson, he has great stories. And this is going to be a true story that introduces the lesson. And the lesson is about honor and sacrifice. It's called Finding Honor, is the name of this whole lesson. A few years ago, this guy was a preacher, a soldier. He went to Vietnam. He became an evangelist. He started writing materials for churches, and he is still a pastor. Okay? He's married, got children, grandchildren, and a great guy. A few years ago, I was invited to participate in an event to honor Vietnam War veterans. The event was hosted by a nearby high school, the history department. And the keynote speaker was Joe Galloway. Joe Galloway is a journalist and a veteran of Vietnam. He wrote a book that was later made into a movie that probably a lot of you have seen. It came out in 2002, and it was called We Were Soldiers. I have seen the movie. It's a completely true story. My part in the event was to offer a prayer during the ceremonies. Before the event, those of us who were scheduled to participate in the program shared an informal dinner together. I had an opportunity to meet and speak with all of the invited participants, including Mr. Galloway. However, there were 2 veterans there I had never met before, and they had the greatest impact on my life at that moment. I stood in awe as they shook my hand. They introduced themselves. Each man was wearing something around his neck, and that something around his neck is called the Medal of Honor. The Medal of Honor was started in America during the Civil War, and it was people that that did amazing things in hostile territory against an enemy. They found ways to show courage. And of course, some of these people were killed, and they received the honor. Their family received the honor, but a lot of these people survived. A few thousand people, out of the millions of people that have served in armed service, only a few thousand have received this honor. These are probably the bravest people of all the people that are in the military. Today, we're going to be talking about a man who wrote a poem about his wife. Now, the man is a king. Now, as you know, Proverbs was written by King Solomon, who was the richest man in the world. He was probably the smartest, wisest man in the world. And you're going to find out today in this lesson some of the things that he did. Now, what I'm going to have to do in this lesson today is give you a science lesson, a history lesson, and a geography lesson to get it all in. And I've used a lot of resources, and I think what I'm going to tell you is accurate information. Some of this, although I was a science teacher 14 years, some of this was new information for me. Okay. The story today is about a king who writes a poem about his wife. The king is Lemuel. Lemuel is a wealthy man. Now he did not live in Israel, but he lived in the area, and he was a friend of King Solomon. And King Solomon used his material, and this material became some of the most famous words in Proverbs. And you will discover that in a few minutes. And you will say, hey, I heard that in a funeral like recently. Yeah. Okay, so this was not a king in Israel. He probably was in the area, but he believed in God. He believed in Israel's God. And you'll be able to tell that in the things that he said. Is he bragging about his wife? Oh, yes. But was it true? Yes. And this family was well-to-do. This is not a normal, average family, but it was showing how God intervened in their life and how they responded in all the different ways. Now, I want to read first. I want to read the whole thing, and then what I will do, I will go through each verse and show you what was special about this woman. You will recognize this. You've heard this in funerals in a godly woman. And speaking of godly women, I did not include in my prayer today, but Louise Fleming is 100 years old. She's in the hospital. Donna Cooper is still recovering. And I want to mention Tommy Belch and Wilbur Joyner, Buck Price, Lily Thomas, Helen Cleveland, all of those I pray for every day. I pray for all the shut-ins every day. I pray for all my deacon families, and I pray for all the folks at Albemarle every day. And I want you to know that things will get better. I think of this as kind of like a test, and we will get through this. Okay, continuing reading this. Who can find a wife of noble character? She is far more precious than jewels. The heart of her husband trusts in her, and he will not lack anything good. She rewards him with good, not evil, all the days of her life. She selects wool and flax and works with willing hands. She is like the merchant ships, bringing her food from far away. She rises while it is still night and provides food for her household and portions for her female servants. She evaluates a field and buys it and plants a vineyard with her earnings. Her husband is known at the city gates, where he sits among the elders of the land. She makes and sells linen garments and delivers belts to the merchants. Strength and honor are her clothing, and she can laugh at the time to come. Her mouth speaks wisdom, and loving instruction is on her tongue. She watches over the activities of her husband and is never idle. Her children rise up and call her blessed. Her husband also praises her. Many women have done noble deeds, but you surpass them all. Charm is deceptive, and beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord will be praised. Give her the reward of her labor. Let her works praise her at the city gates. Now, all that stuff, some of that will be cleared up in just a minute as I go through each verse. Okay. Remember that this woman we're talking about is affluent. She's intelligent. She's involved in a lot of things. She has servants. She plans out her day. She gets up early, plans out her day. Now, let's go through each one. Who can find a wife of noble character? She is far more precious than jewels. Okay, a long time ago, the valuable things in Israel, the things that people considered the greatest value, might surprise you. Of course, gold and silver were two things that were considered very valuable, but coral from the ocean, that was considered very valuable too, very beautiful, very valuable. Mother of pearl was considered valuable. Rubies, which are red, sapphires are blue, and emeralds are green. All of those are very expensive today. They don't mention those, but all of those gems were on the earth 2,000 years ago. I used to be a geology teacher, and those gem minerals have been here for millions of years. I have actually been in a group that went into the mountains and found gems and brought them back and put them in the device to polish them. The heart of her husband trusts in her. He will not lack anything good. Okay. This is kind of like one of the most important parts here. Well, you see, they both belong to God, and Christ's relationship, his relationship with the church, is like the relationship that they have here. These people trust in the Lord, and at the church, they go there to worship the Lord. Now, these people are Hebrew, and they are the religion is Jewish. So they are following, they're going to the synagogue and they're going to the temples, but we know that God is Jesus. Jesus becomes a personal relationship with us years later. But these are godly people. She rewards him with good, not evil, all the days of her life. My mother and dad were married 55 years. Me and my wife have been married 54 years. And we recently celebrated, July 31st, we celebrated with our family. Those years have gone by very fast. But a lot of these qualities about this woman are like I find in my own wife, being able to cook so well and sew. She made kids' clothes. She made over 200 masks during the pandemic. I understand Frances Wright made over 400. I have a golf mask that she made for me that was really good. I want to kind of switch gears a little bit here. I want to give you a science lesson, okay? A long time ago, it took a lot of time to make cloth, okay? See, most of our stuff today is made from cotton. And we know a lot of it comes from Egypt, some of the best cotton. But during this time, what was being used to make clothing was something that you may not really know much about. Flax. Flax is a plant. Flax has bark. It is very labor intensive to do this. What you have to do, the flax stems are soaked in water. They're pulled and left to dry. The seeds are removed. The stalks are soaked in water for 3 to 4 weeks to loosen the fibers. You dry them again, and then they use a comb to separate the fibers from the inner core of the stem. You can then take these fibers, spin them into thread, and weave fabric on a loom. Linen is the oldest known textile. Now, I know some of you are probably saying, wait a minute, what about wool? I mean, I know they had wool in it. Yes, they did. And shears to cut the wool were like scissors. They were invented just before the book of Proverbs was written, and that made the yearly shearing of wool a lot easier. And natural wool can be white, it can be yellow or gray, but they would dye it all kinds of colors. They had all kinds of plant dyes. They even had some dyes that came from sea animals. I remember reading about an animal from the ocean that made things purple. And what I think about like an octopus that they had this inky stuff. Maybe that's what it was. Okay, flax is used to make linen. I used to have a pair of linen pants, and after you wore them, they had to be dry cleaned. You could not wash them because of the fiber. Well, this woman, she made things from wool. She made things from flax, linen. Linen stuff could be used for undergarments, and you could use wool for outer garments, and then you could make belts or girdles out of either one of those materials. So a person would have loose, like a toga-like thing, a sash or something to tie it with, but there would be undergarments made of linen. Now, of course, rich people had more layers of clothes than the poor people. Poor people might just have simply a robe. Now, let's go into a geography lesson. It says that she is like the merchant ships bringing her food from far away. Okay, all right. What they're actually talking about here, the ships from Israel. You see, King Solomon had ships, and these ships took products from there and brought things back, import, export kind of deal. Okay, so the ships would come back, and they might have their goods at these gates, and she would barter. She might trade linen and wool articles for spices or things from other places to help feed her family. A lot of times we're talking mostly about feeding people food. She rises in the morning while it's still night, in other words, just before dawn. I was up this morning at 6 o'clock, and to me, it was dark. So she was probably getting up kind of like I did. She provides food for her household and portions for her female servants. She has to plan meals, but she has to plan jobs for them to give them chores, which will involve cleaning clothes and cooking and feeding people. That would be the main kind of thing. You remember, this is a very hot climate, very arid, dusty. People get dirty real easy, and they need garments to keep the sun off of them. It says that she evaluates a field and buys it. She plants a vineyard with her earnings. Okay, this woman was doing more than just running a household. She had business acumen, and she went beyond the home to bring money into the family. And she learned how to barter with people, and to buy land, and to plant a vineyard. And the money from that went to the family. Okay, let's do a history lesson now. Okay, we know that the city of Jerusalem had a wall around it. It was to keep people out and also wild animals. They had 15 gates. A gate is where you went in and out. And there were people that lived at these gates. There were like rooms. You've seen movies where there's a tower and somebody's living there, and you call out and say, pull up the drawbridge, let me in. Now, they didn't need a drawbridge in Israel, but they did have gates. And the city gates is where people would congregate. That's where the judges and elders would sit. They would decide murder cases, not in a building right beside the gates. They also had people selling stuff at the gates. The husband of this woman, because she had a good reputation, he had a good reputation. It says here, the wife's excellent qualities and skills helped provide for the household and enhance her husband's reputation because he was a judge and helped make different kinds of things. Another fact about the clothes and stuff, these belts or girdles, you could gird up your inner and outer garments if you needed to make a quick movement. Like when you were getting ready to fight an enemy, you pulled all of these under a belt so you could go fast. And of course, they were wearing sandals. Strength and honor are her clothing, and she can laugh at the time to come. She's got a sense of humor. She finds humor in things. She's not a frivolous person, but she has an inner quality, an inner beauty. It says here, she is right with God. She has the qualities of a gentle and quiet spirit, which is of great worth in God's sight. Okay, as she gets older, beauty will fade, diminish, but her beauty is inside. She is a follower of God. She has strength and honor, and she knows when to laugh and have fun, and she knows when to be serious. Matter of fact, Solomon is the one that wrote, there's a time for everything, a time to live, a time to die. Her mouth speaks wisdom, and loving instruction is on her tongue. She corrects her children, her servants. She watches over the activities of the household and is never idle. The children rise up and call her blessed. Her husband praises her. Many women have done noble deeds, but you surpass them all. Charm is deceptive and beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord will be praised. And I put a star by this. From the very first chapter, I have been teaching all the chapters in Proverbs. From the very first chapter, I told you there were 3,000 verses about how to live your life, for good advice, but the first rule was to get right with God. And the quality, it doesn't sound like a quality, but the first quality, everybody that's listening to me right now, you need this quality, and that quality is called fear the Lord. Fear the Lord. Respect the Lord. The Lord is awesome. You need to be fearful of His mighty ways, but He loves you, and He is very patient with you. This woman, what sets her apart and gives her noble character is that she is a woman that believes in God. She fears the Lord. She reads her Bible, and she knows what she's supposed to do. She has a right relationship with God. She lives with her faith relationship with God, and it shapes all her other relationships and activities in life. Give her the reward of her labor, and let her works praise her at the city gates. You see, at the city gates, that's where all these different activities are saying. People selling things, people teaching, having trials. These elders made decisions. They didn't have courthouses for doing these kind of things. Now, I have another book that I use that has questions. Now, of course, the only person that's in here right now is Rusty, who is running the television stuff. So I'm in an empty sanctuary that can seat 600 people. I have seen this place filled 3 times, and all 3 of those were funerals. Robert Barnhill, there were extra chairs everywhere here. Archie Mosley, The balcony, everything was completely packed. And Kent Honeycutt. That's the 3 times. I've been in this church for 54 years. And right now, it's completely empty. But in a few weeks, we'll be back to normal and everything will be good. Okay, I've got some questions here, and I want to ask the question, and then I want you to answer it to yourself, and then I'm going to tell you the answer. Okay? I want you to describe the woman that I was talking about today. I want you to tell me what was the bottom line. This was a woman of noble character that loved the Lord and feared the Lord. Okay? What is one of the themes, one of the main themes that comes through Proverbs? Wisdom. I've heard somebody say that knowledge is what you pick up, and then wisdom is something that you do for a long time. Knowledge for a long time is wisdom. I know Mark Twain said one time, when he was a boy, he thought his dad was really stupid. But when he got to be a man, he realized how much his dad had grown up. Which means Mark Twain understood that his father was a whole lot smarter than he thought. My dad used a lot of Bible stuff. I might say something like, boy, I sure hope I make the football team. And my dad might say, everything works like it should. He would not say the Bible verse exactly right, but he would change it around. Everything works out for those who trust in the Lord. That's what he would say. And it may not work out. But if it didn't work out, my dad would say, well, it won't supposed to work out. You trust in the Lord, you ask Him, you pray to Him. If it doesn't work out, there was a reason. And don't spend your whole life worrying about it. Pray about things, ask Him to help you make the decision. Okay, these verses that I read today, what do they teach us about how we work? Okay, we learn several things. Not to be lazy. We learn to make good decisions, to be trustworthy, and we learn to be willing to sacrifice and work hard. Now, that's just good advice for almost anything you can think of. How can we view the call to provide for others as a good gift? Okay, I'm giving you a chance to think about it. These verses describe a woman who is happy to provide and work. She goes above and beyond to provide the best things for those around her. She rises early, prepares the house, seeks the best foods. She works with willing hands. So this is a woman who is helping others. The servants would praise her, and her children would emulate her. What synonyms might be used instead of what King Lemuel described? What other things could you say about his wife in a different way that he didn't say? She displayed strength of character and honor. She was trustworthy. She was a person who was never lazy. And she set a good example for other people. How does the excellent wife influence and honor the community? She was wise in her dealings with the community, and she was respected. Her husband respected her, and they knew that she was raising her family correctly. She was fair to her servants, and they would show that respect. you're fair to somebody, they will return that. She doesn't keep wisdom to herself. She shares the wisdom and instruction with others. How do the verses from 2,000 years ago, how does that relate to women today? What do we learn from the Bible in this lesson today about women? How should women be today? Okay? All right. I would say that a woman honors God with her life. I think she receives honor. If she's in business, I think she gets a reputation and she's fair and she does things the proper way. I think in her family relations, she doesn't show partiality to different kids. I know when I was growing up, I had an older brother, and it seemed like to me he got to do things that I couldn't do. I mean, he was driving, he was dating girls. He would bring a girl to the house, and I would say to myself, you know, why can't I be doing these things? You know, he's 17, I'm 12. I mean, I like those girls too, but no, I had to stay home, play fiddlesticks or whatever, okay? Then I had a little brother when I was 10, and we had a little baby, and then everybody doted on him. So I was like the child in the middle, you know. The first child gets permission to do things, and the last child, the baby child, gets to do fun stuff. And I was stuck, of course, to cut grass and all the hard work, okay? These verses, do they apply to all kinds of women? The ultimate focus for all people is relationship with the Lord, to fear the Lord, to be in awe of the Lord, to know that He is the judge of your life. You go to heaven or hell, and it's what God will be doing at the end. If tribulation comes during your lifetime, God will judge you. If you die, go to your grave, and it happens many years later, you will still be judged. You will go to heaven or hell. That's only two choices. What makes people noble? What makes people the way they are? According to the Bible, the relationship with God must be there before you can have the attributes that you need in life. I know a lot of famous people were very, very smart, but they weren't real smart. They didn't believe in God. And I'm thinking about one of the most great physicists did not believe in God, and a great philosopher. Voltaire did not believe in God. He was very, very smart. A lot of people say that there is no God, and you know what? Those people died, and God is still around. I wanted to end up, I was talking about city gates a while ago. The city gates, the walls on city gates, that's how people were protected. And I had never heard some of this before about the city gates. And it says here that Abraham in the Bible, the guy that started the Israelites with God, the covenant, he went to the city gate to buy his wife Sarah a gravesite. And he did that at one of the gates. It was called Hebron. There was 15 gates in Israel in the walls. And that's where that took place. It says here that kings and elders administered justice at the gates. They held court. The judges and elders had respect of people. They settled many legal, criminal cases, property disputes, even murder cases. 15 different gates, and all of them were managed. There were people there. Some people actually lived in a room at the gate, and others they work shifts. Okay, what should you get out of this lesson today? Our time is up. The lesson was about a godly woman. Yes, they were well-to-do people. They had most of the good things in life. But she was a wealthy woman who believed in God and served Him each and every day. And we can learn a lot from this king that wrote this about his wife. He was a very blessed. This was not, although it was Proverbs, it was not a lesson from King Solomon, but we think that this man was a friend of King Solomon. Let's end the lesson with a prayer. Father, thank you for your word, and thank you for this lesson today, telling us about wives and women, how they should be with their families, Lord, that they should fear the Lord and they should take care of their families. Be with us in the coming days. Help us to get back to regular times with the pandemic, and be with all the people that are sick and all those that are lonely and need somebody to visit them. Thank you for all that you do for us, and we ask this in your Son's name. Amen.
Blessed be your name in the land that is plentiful, where the streams of abundance flow. Blessed be your name. Blessed be your name when I'm found in the desert place. Though I walk through the wilderness, blessed be your name. Every blessing you pour out, I'll turn back to praise. When the darkness closes in, Lord, still I will say, blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be your name. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be your glorious name. Blessed be your name when the sun's shining down on me, when the world's all as it should be. Blessed be your name. Blessed be your name on the road marked with suffering, though there's pain in the offering. Blessed be your name. Every blessing you pour out, I'll turn back to praise. When the darkness closes in, Lord, still I will say, blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be your name. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be your glorious name. You give and take away. You give and take away. My heart will choose to say, Lord, blessed be your name. You give and take away. You give and take away. My heart will choose to say, Lord, blessed be your name. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be your name. Blessed